Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a great evening. It really cooled down here yesterday. Once again, the moisture went east and north of us. We did get a sprinkling. We're looking for highs today in the lower 60s and in the low 70s over the weekend. So finally getting a taste of some fall weather right here. It's we had a really cool bout about 3 weeks ago for 3 or 4 days. So Canada is definitely sharing its cool air with us. Most of it's going to head east of us. Big storms from this powerful cold front that have gone through, kicking off. It will kick off tornadoes. It's kicked off very high straight line winds. So when we get in the spring and fall, we can have these big storms kicked off by systems. Okay, today is a Newsday trade. It is either the #1 or #2 news day of the month, depending on what the Fed does at their FOMC meeting. You're put into a situation, if you know the news, you got the trade. And usually you'll see a little movement right before the news is released that will generally shows that somebody knows what the news is beforehand. At 4 o'clock, the day before the news release, major news releases, over 120 people in our government are given this news so they can write their speeches. Won't be taken by surprise. This news sometimes gets out. The best place to see this over the last couple of years has been what gold does right before the release. So we'll see what we have. The numbers, if as forecast, are supported for the indexes, 215, both private and non-farm payroll numbers, 6.1. Inflation, our normal plus 0.2 in hourly earnings, our normal 34.5 work week, trade balance at minus 40.6 billion. It'll be lost. No one will pay any attention to it. Then ISM services at 58.6. This is #1. That's #2. And that'll be the #3 news focus. The news overnight, Hong Kong demonstrations were peaceful and orderly, and the reason for that was the current Hong Kong government has agreed to talk to the protesters. So it looks like it's diffused, at least for the moment. The EU and UK missed their economic numbers overnight, further supporting the idea that the economy in the EU and maybe the UK are weakening, softening, and then we'll move on from our unemployment news to our ISM services news this morning. And because we are a nation that has exported most of our manufacturing, heavy manufacturing, to other countries, ISM services gets a more scrutiny than the ISM manufacturing does. So if you know what these numbers are, that number and that number is right there, you got your trade. Now, there's absolutely zero liquidity when the news hits. And the news algorithms are there instantaneously, and they take out all the liquidity, all the resting buy and sell orders until the news algorithm trading orders are filled and satisfied. So for most of us, if we enter the market on a buy stop or a sell stop, we're gonna be filled very close to the market's edge, whatever that first move is. We have 2 ways for approaching a newsday trade if you don't want to position in front of it, and we don't recommend positioning in front of it because you can never know this news with 100% certainty. So the first way is to let the move get out of the way, enter on this first correction, 50% retracement, is where most of the world will try to get in on it. The mode mean, a tick inside the mode mean, whichever is higher, is usually doable. Or you let the first bar get out of the way, then you take it in on the next correction. So those are the two ways to get in. Then if the market doesn't take out, like in this case the high, you head to the sidelines. Now this requires you to act sometimes in that first 10 to 15 seconds after the news is released, when things are really moving quickly. You can't really trade with stops. You just have to put your trade on and take yourself, get in, and then take yourself out when you no longer like the trade. Now the next way to trade this is let the move take place. That first correction is going to find out, say in this case, where the buy orders are. If the market comes back up and can't take out that number, then it's going to come back down, and if the market is well supported, we'll have a little bit higher low in that case. We'll come back up, we'll have a little bit lower high, and so forth and so on until it comes to balance and the market is ready for a new move. In the 10-year note, for instance, you can trade at plus or minus 230 seconds. In the 30-year, you can trade at plus or minus 430 seconds. In the E-mini, plus or minus 3 points. So that's another way to do it, is to trade development. And this is, if you don't really have, if you're not nimble, if you can't make up your mind quickly, if it requires thought, then we don't recommend that you go this first route. So know the news and you have the trade, because this market has sold. The most potential is being long into the news. The breakout came 24.31, so this 25.31 is pretty good support. Then so 27, so this 27 to the buck is where I see best support, and we should find some buying down there in any event. Last rotate up yesterday stopped in this 16-17 area. So this is where resistance begins, but you can see that we were getting lower highs, 22, 21, 18. So 18 to 22 is where resistance lies. And if we can't take this out, then the short side looks pretty good. Any questions on this one? Newsday trading, and again, you know, if you're trading for 330 seconds or 6 to 830 seconds, you really can't take a 16 to 32, 30-second loss in the financials. It just, the math does not compute. It takes too much time to rebuild or rebound from those losses. Okay, looking at the 30-year, it won't change. Numbers are a little bit different. The handle, we're talking about 139 as opposed to 125, 138. Again, looking at this market, we've talked about it for a couple of days, this breakout and this, so 16 to 20 is our first little band of pretty good support. And we've said the last day that we're expecting this area to be retested, and if it holds, then the way is clear to trade higher. You can see right here that the overnight session high was 4. The L period high was 7. The K period high was 12. H period high was 17. So this 8 to 12 area is probably our first good resistance band. And our second one will be up here in the 20 to 24. On the buy side, our first buy down here support, this 17 to 21 area, is an area that would make some sense. And then beneath that, you'd be leaning against 8. So again, know the news, you have the trade, and because the market has sold, the most potential is being long into the news. That's just pure, plain dynamics. They sold it into the news. in anticipation of a number that was a bit negative for the financials, and if that number does not come in as forecast, it'll rally back pretty quickly, or normally rallies back pretty quickly. Okay, looking at gold, gold is off overnight. The news, if as forecast, is negative for gold. More people going back to work, higher tax revenues, less need to print money. The Fed's quantitative easing will be over this month, or certainly no later than next month. So we're back where we're at support at 5. That's number 1. And then number 2 will be right against 1200. Now the big number is down below is 1185. And we've been talking pretty much all week about stops below 1200. We had hoped to sell higher last night. 15 once again held as resistance. Here's your spill from 10. 1012 did bounce the market. That was our first little band of support from yesterday. You can see right here the value area low, but it didn't hold. And you have a B coming. Get a new move, and the market trades lower, so we have a double distribution lower. Gold is telling us that the non-farm payroll number is at least 215,000. On the sell side, 10 to 12, S1, then 15 to 17 is S2. But once again, knowing the news is what it really boils down to. Don't you hate that? In New York City, they pay to know that news. New York City has built their fortune on not what you know, it's who you know, inside information, and they pay a lot of money in the form of staffs. They subsidize people's salaries and incomes, send them to Washington, D.C. to make sure they're as plugged into the Treasury and the Fed as they can be. They are willing to staff congressional staffers that sit on the committees that control their livelihood. It is easier to legislate your competition away than it is to beat them in the marketplace. If you're at the top, if you're a mature industry, your cash flow is as good as it has ever been. You've got the money to buy influence in Washington. And it's no secret that the most powerful committee in Washington, D.C. is the House Ways and Means Committee, who sets tax law, who you pay enough, you can get special one-off exclusions from taxes or tax benefits or favors. It's not called bribery, it's called campaign contributions. Okay, looking at the euro came back quite a bit overnight. Again, we were hoping to sell the 90 area, didn't get there. Really just got to the top of value. And one of the things, if you open in value, a limit sell against the top at value, a limit buy against the bottom of value. You can see the Q period low right here did bounce off the bottom of value. You can see T stopped at the top of value. If you miss that trade right there, sell stopping into the market as you start lower with an exit against this value area low is a great way to play it. Last night we had the 2650 area, then 2625 identified as buy areas, so we blew right through 50. The 25 area so far is holding up. So 26 down here, because it is 126 even, is probably pretty good support, so 26 plus or minus 5 is an area we engaged. If the number is as forecast, on a relative basis, the U.S. economy is stronger than Europe. Sell the euro, buy the dollar. and then our 75 area plus or minus is a reasonable trade. And on the sell side, last rotate up stopped at 37. We're at 21 right now, so 30 to 40 will be sell 1. And again, these are just areas to take a look at. And then London's high was 60, so 50 to 60 would be sell 2. And it's all dependent upon the news. If you know the news, you've got your trade. Now, a lot of professional traders, those who actually have a bottom line, will have a strong feeling about the news or about whatever it is that's driving their trading, and they will position in front of the news. The secret to swing trading and position trading is getting the market's direction right. The secret to day trading is getting the direction right and trade location and timing. So the problem facing a swing trader or a position trader is direction. And they don't have to have perfect timing. They don't have to have great trade location. They just have to get the trades on. And with the institutions that I used to work with, when they made up their mind that they wanted to buy securities, they bought securities, and they weren't interested in anything but making sure that order was filled. If they wanted to get it at a particular price, they would tell you to work it. But by the end of the day, that order was filled because it fit their investment guidelines, and they wanted that particular sort. So they didn't really care all that much about price or about trade location. They just wanted to make sure they got the trade on. And that's the secret or trick of swing or position trading. And it's also the secret or trick on trend days. A lot of people won't take a trend day because it's too high or it's too low. They miss the buy, they miss the sell. They know it's trending, but they're not going to pay up to get in. And you gotta fight that tendency. You gotta overcome it. Okay, crude oil. I put an article into the room. It showed increased production from Russia. It showed increased production from a lot of different countries outside of the United States and Canada. And there was also in that article talked about Saudi Arabia did cut their production down to 8 million barrels per day, but they are also starting to defend market share. They are not going to lose their customer list, their clients, and they will defend a certain level of barrels sold per month at any price to those channels. And when they start defending market share, then that's when the prices can really move very low. Okay, we'd talked about a long time at least getting stops below 90. 90 is an important number. You can see a G period low at 89.90. You can see an H period low at 90.33. You see the overnight session low at 90.25. So we left yesterday's market 90.50, 90.75, then 90.25. And our number 2 area once again is the area that holds. We left yesterday's market wanting to sell the 91.50 to 75 area, and we hit that perfectly. So number 1 holds. Number 2 is where you should expect to get in to the market. So right here we have a spill basically at 91. So 91, 91.25, sell 1. 92.50, 75, sell 2. On the buy side, we'll leave it 90, 90.25 for buy 1, and then 50 to 75 for buy 2. Crude oil will not trade the unemployment numbers like the rest of the markets will, so they dance to a little bit different drummer. It's hard to say what fundamentals on a day-to-day basis are driving crude oil, but increased supply means lower prices over time. You can delay the impact or effects of economic law, but you can't escape them. And all of our governments that have been printing money, at least, well, the next group of politicians, not the ones that cause the problems, will feel the effects of economic law when it's all said and done. As always, the issue is timing. Okay, yesterday we talked about in the E-mini if they didn't break the market and if they took it back up above this 3350 short covering before today's news was going to be the dynamic that we dealt with. And we had a rally that took the market all the way up to 45, which is this little area right here. And we talked about that yesterday afternoon. The overnight session comes down in this JK area right here, 4/5 letter ledges, held on the opening, and you can see the short covering. In spite of bad news overnight, took the market higher. So Hong Kong was certainly a factor. Hong Kong did not blow up. The EU and UK's bad economic news, ignored. That means that Draghi will actually have to put money into the market. He can't just talk about doing it. Buy stocks. And now we're down to our numbers, 215K non-farm payroll, both private, and the total number, 6.1 unemployment. That's 1, that's 2, 3 ISM services at 58.6. That's your news focus. Looking at this market structurally, we have this 55, 53, 55 area, this area right in here that held the market. That's as high as we could get after making a low in the 46 area. That's our first boundary of resistance, and that's 75, 78. On the charts is going to be our next area of resistance. So if we can't get through 50, say 55 plus or minus this morning, then the sellers are still in control and the sentiment is negative. If we run it back up to the 75, 78 area, we'll just have to see what happens. We have had several days of selling. They did hit it pretty hard, but they covered those shorts yesterday. They brought it up. So the market is still higher, lower, or sideways. The players don't know. And if the market were selling, we should see lower highs on every minor correction. That should be in tracked, and we're just going to have to see what happens. So know the news, you got the trade. We'll be back on the news. We'll see what the numbers look like. In the meantime, I'm going to get busy and knock it out. Be back with you on the numbers in a bit.